If you just tuned in, you're listening to 89.7, coming live from ECU, and I'm Trish Duke. Thanks for your company. We've got a young man in the station today who is going to be so interesting to talk to, Danny Morris. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, you're a local student at Murdoch, even though I came from ECU. We're very pro-Murdoch too. Tell us, what courses are you doing down there?
Right now, busy these days, finishing my journalism degree, together with security, terrorism and counter-terrorism.
Now, that's an interesting course. They didn't have that when I was at uni. Tell me about the terrorism course.
I think the terrorism and counter-terrorism, it's a pretty new course. In the last few years, it's been created at university. It's pretty interesting. It involves quite a few details and all sorts of information that is pretty interesting and well taught.
Is it a course that we see worldwide?
I'm pretty sure it is. It's a course that would help people understand, I think, worldwide, the whole idea of terrorism, where it comes from and why it's created. And it's pretty interesting and valuable learning there.
What are the sort of people that go on that course? Are they going into the armed forces? Surely this is something that they would teach in the armed forces in Australia and overseas.
Pretty sure. I think they might teach it. I know that in this course itself, you meet people from all backgrounds. So it's people who have got lots of different ideas. People are heading in different directions. But they want to study this and are pretty interested in doing this. So I'm sure it leads into different options afterwards. What
sort of jobs can you get from this course?
Good question. I'm pretty busy these days applying for a few jobs in the area and stuff, so I guess we'll know in 6 months' time.
And you've teamed it up with journalism?
Yes.
What other subjects can you team it up with?
I think you can team it up with just about any subject, or do it as a major or a minor at university. I think you can just about combine it with anything else, or do it on its own.
What's the ratio of male to female students?
In the security course, there's these days, I think in my unit, there's more females than males.
In the security course?
Yeah.
Now that surprises me.
It's I think it surprised me at the start too a bit, but I don't know. That's how it seemed to turn out.
Okay, well, you learn something every day. Now, Danny, you've written a book.
Yes.
When did you write it? Was this during your student days when you should have been doing assignments?
It was. I wrote that when I finished my army service in Israel, in the Israeli Defence Force. The service goes on there for 3 years, and I happened to get wounded in the war in 2006 between Israel and the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and I decided to write this book when I finished my service.
Why did you want to write the book?
I think the main idea of the book was to show people that a soldier also has a point of view and a voice. I think we get so distracted these days, and most of the time we hear the government's opinion, and we hear people's opinions, and we hear politicians' opinions, and everybody else.
And the journalists that you're learning how to...
Especially the media.
Right, yes, sure.
But we never really get to hear the soldier's point of view, and I think it was a good reason, or I was trying to show that a soldier also has a voice and is like a human being like everybody else, and not as they're always pictured.
You've called the book Behind the Fence. What fence are you talking about?
That was the fence between Israel and Lebanon. The operation, which started in 2006, was behind that fence, which leads into Lebanon, and that's where the big operation was done.
All right, and it says in the book that you were wounded. Tell us a bit about that. What happened there?
It was probably 2 days before ceasefire. My platoon was operating in one of part of the operation that we had inside Lebanon, and one of the battles there with the Hezbollah terrorist organisation. I was wounded in one of the battles.
And you okay now?
Yeah, it was a pretty light wound, obviously compared to some of the other guys, and that's what also encouraged me in writing the writing the book. I had plenty of time during my time in hospital, and then coming home after that during rehab. I had plenty of time on my hands, so I thought that would be a good idea, and that would be maybe a way of assisting Israel in explaining the situation that they got in.
Do you think the media portrays the Middle East conflicts truthfully?
I think it's a pretty complicated situation. I definitely think that every story has two sides, and that often the second side is not always shown as strong as the first one. I remember when I first got here about 3.5 years ago, I was walking down Hay Street one day in the city, and I accidentally happened to walk into a rally which was organised by one of the universities. And I found out very fast that the rally itself was against Israel and its soldiers, and I was handed a pamphlet that had a picture of an Israeli soldier pointing at a young kid, and it made me, well, I guess more than ever, realise that someone is missing a lot of details, and something has to be done to try and explain the situation and help people realise that it's not always how it seems.
All right, so do Israeli soldiers point guns at children?
The Israeli Defence Force, it was created and maintained for the most simple reason, and that's to defend its country. Israel, like every other country in the world, has the right to defend itself, and obviously, as wars and operations do, Israel always in the middle of making headlines around the world. But obviously, as the thing that is taught in basic training in the army, in the combat units, is that the gun that you receive, it's to defend yourself and fellow soldiers. It's never to be used as a threat or anything else like that.
So why do people advertise pictures like that?
I think mainly it gives people something to do. I think that bad news always makes big news. And
it's controversial, isn't it?
It's very controversial. And I think if people can hold on to a thought or an opinion that they had created for them, so it's much easier than getting your own.
Israel's a very tiny country, isn't it? I understand you can fit it into Tasmania half a dozen times.
It's a pretty small country, yeah.
Is it the only Jewish state?
It is the only Jewish state, and that's why the Jewish people see that as such an important part and such a crucial thing to defend.
So it's a very tiny country. Why would those enormous Arab states want to swallow up Israel when it's so small, with only 6-7 million people there?
Well, I don't think it's all the Arab states. I think that, like in every country, in every religion, in every state, there's good and there's bad. And out of some of the Arab states have small groups inside who don't believe in the existence of Israel, when the other, well, I should say the larger, the bigger population wouldn't have a problem. But it's always going to be those small, extreme people who make the headlines. So it makes it look like that everybody's against you, but it's not really like that.
Now, Danny, you were born in Melbourne, and
Yes.
your family moved to Israel when you were the age of 4, and they've been there the last 20 years.
Yep.
Why would your family do that? Most people are trying to get into Australia, and you went the opposite direction. Tell us the feeling why people, as they call it, make Aliyah to Israel.
Mum and Dad met in Israel when they were 18, while they were travelling there, and after a year they decided to come back to Melbourne. And Dad's from New Zealand, Mum's from Melbourne, and he moved to Melbourne, and they got married after a few years and had a family, and then just decided that the best place for them and for their family would be Israel. That's when we made the move.
So what was it like growing up in Israel?
Israel is a beautiful place. There's lots of beaches, there's nice people, the weather is pretty good. Obviously there's a bit of a different mentality in the day-to-day life on the streets, but when you're there you really can't feel it. It's much different than what people picture it as.
Do you still have a lot of tourists going, people going on pilgrimages or to look at the archaeology?
tourism is huge these days in Israel. We get lots of groups, mainly from England, the US, lots of people from France and Australia and New Zealand, and it's booming as always.
What sort of things do they enjoy when they're there?
I think I would say the food, the beaches, lots of touristy spots which include water attractions and nice views, hills, and the beaches.
Now, is it easy to get around Israel or to get there in the first place?
It's very easy to get there. To get around, it's probably just like any other place. And it's pretty straightforward when you're there, yeah.
Yeah. But if you're hiring a car, which side of the road do they drive on?
On the right-hand side.
Ah, that could be interesting.
Took me a while to get used to that when I first arrived here, to the left-hand side.
But you haven't hit anything so far?
Not yet.
Good. What are you going to do after uni? Are you going back to Israel or staying in Australia?
It's a good question. Depends if my mum's listening or not. But
she's probably not, so you can tell me and everybody else listening.
Looks like I'm going to be here for the next few years, and we'll see after that. We're not too sure. Haven't thought too much ahead yet.
Okay, well, you're certainly doing some interesting studying there. Tell us a bit more about the book. Who are you aiming it at? What's the readership that you want to draw in?
When I first wrote it, I was aiming for kids from year 11, 12 at school and onwards.
Kids in Australia?
Or kids all over the world. I wrote the book in English. I was hoping it would reach...
That's useful. Hebrew's not too easy to understand, is it?
I was hoping it would reach English-speaking countries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically aimed at anyone who wants to read it. It's... the main idea of it is to just show that an Israeli soldier is more than just a gun and helmet. It's to show the human side of a soldier. So anybody who would probably want to get a different view, a different point of view, and coming from the soldier's eyes, so it would be a okay book to read, I guess.
So anybody that wants to be a soldier in any country would find this interesting to read.
I think it makes kids, especially kids who want to be soldiers, I think it gives them a different perspective. I'm not saying that joining an army or being a soldier is a bad thing. I'm saying that there's two sides to everything. And I did enjoy my time in the army and stuff, but obviously you go through different stages where you wish you were somewhere else.
Well, that's the same whether it's a job or anything, really, isn't it?
right.
Especially when it's a period of 3 years, that could be uni or anything like that.
Yeah,
you come to the point where you just want to change.
That's right.
But if you're in the army, I guess you haven't got much choice, have you?
No, not much.
You're in there. How does the Australian Defence Force differ to the Australian Army or the British Army?
I don't know too much about the Australian Defence Force or the British. I know that during our training days we trained with a few units from the US. And
why was that?
Just exchanging ideas, I think. Lots of armies happen to work together in all the information exchange and stuff like that. But I'm not too sure exactly how the Australian Defence Force works.
Different. Anyway, you've all got guns and you shoot.
That's right.
Shoot the enemy. Okay. Are there more girls in the Australian Defence Force than we have in the Australian armies? Do you know?
I'm not too sure about that. I know that in Israel it's compulsory for everybody.
The girls and the boys.
Yeah. So the girls serve in the army for a year and 9 months these days, and the boys do 3 years. Obviously, it's a bit of a different situation. It's a pretty big topic, but girls these days, they don't go into the combat units for now. There has been one unit that was created about 6-7 years ago that is boys and girls together, which is a semi-combat unit. But as it is for now, the boys are in combat and the girls are non-combat.
And how do the boys feel about that?
I think, not too sure how the boys feel. I know from father's point of view, if I had a daughter or son, I know that's probably not a nice thing to say, but if I would have to choose one of them to go into a combat unit, I would probably send my son and my daughter.
Well, you guys are built bigger.
We are
You've
built
got
bigger.
bigger shoulders and you're stronger, and you don't need a mirror every day to put your lipstick on.
That's right.
That would be tricky in combat.
No hair straighteners.
I know. Nowhere to plug them in the tent. So this book, Behind the Fence, by Danny Morris, where can people get this?
It's in a few shops, mainly over east. The most convenient place to get it would probably be from the website. It's on www.dannymorris.com.au, and it's pretty easy to buy.
Okay. How much is it?
It's $25, and usually gets delivered in about 2 or 3 days from when you order.
So dannymorris.com.au, and it's aimed at anybody that's interested in army books and army stories.
Well, it's
with a difference.
Yeah, it's
different angle.
It's not so much the army story. It does obviously involve a lot about the army, but it mainly talks about friendship and loyalty. It talks about what it's like going into war while your best friends are right beside you. So it gives a very different perspective and takes out more of the war and puts that to the side, and really more talks about thoughts and feelings and friendship, which is what it focuses on.
And the value system.
And the value system.
Value system. That's good. Danny Morris, thank you very much for coming and sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Student at Murdoch, written a book there, Behind the Fence, which you can get at dannymorris.com.au. Oh, and we're going to play a song. Oh, he's brought us some Israeli music. I nearly forgot that. Tell us about this one. Sounds like it's going to be a bit wild.
I think it's a bit different than what we're used to hearing. This band is called Bet Bubot, which in English means the puppet house. It's a group of ex-soldiers who, after the service, flew overseas, wrote some songs, and 2 or 3 years after that came back to Israel as a pretty big success.
As pop stars?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay, all right, we'll listen to this one. We'll like something a bit different. Thanks very much, Danny.
Thanks.